Welcome to Spirits of Asia, where alleyway shadows have names and old legends still answer when you call. Quick note, visuals are AI generated to set the mood. Faces or names might glitch. Chen might become James for a second. Don't mind it. It's just the spirits, or AI being inconsistent. Now volume up, grab your snacks, kill the lights, and let's begin. Somchai had been fishing the Andaman Sea for 32 years. He knew every island, every reef, every current between Phuket and the Malaysian border. He'd weathered monsoons, navigated through night fog, and pulled in catches that fed his family and paid for his children's education. But there were two places Somchai would never anchor his boat. Not for the best fishing grounds, not for shelter from storms, not for any amount of money. Koh Hin Ngam, the island, covered in beautiful black stones that shine like jewels when wet, and the waters around Phi Phi Island, where thousands died in the 2004 tsunami and never stopped walking the beaches. In April 2023, a young tourist named Paul Chappell convinced Somchai to take him to Koh Hin Ngam. The Englishman wanted to see the famous black stone beach, take photographs, maybe collect a few stones as souvenirs. He offered Somchai 5,000 baht for the trip. That's a week's worth of fishing income. Somchai refused. Paul doubled the offer, 10,000 baht, just to anchor near the island for an hour. Somchai still refused. He tried to explain why, the curse, the spirit, the people who died. But Paul was young, Western, skeptical. He thought it was just local superstition, a story fisherman told to keep tourists away from their secret fishing spots. Finally, Paul found another boat captain, willing to take his money, a younger man, newer to fishing, who needed the cash more than he feared the spirits. Paul spent 2 hours on Koh Hin Ngam. He took photographs. He ate his lunch sitting on the cursed black stones. He even filled his pockets with some of the beautiful rocks, ignoring the warning signs posted by park officials in Thai and English. Taking stones from this island is forbidden and will bring misfortune. 3 days later, Paul was in Phuket hospital with a severe infection that doctors couldn't explain. 5 days after that, he was medically evacuated back to England. Within 2 weeks of touching those stones, he'd lost his job, his girlfriend had left him, and he'd been in a serious car accident that totaled his vehicle. Paul shipped the stones back to Thailand, every single one, with a letter begging forgiveness from Chaopho Tarutao, the spirit who guards that island. But Paul was lucky. He survived. Others haven't. Tonight, we're going to the waters around Thailand's most haunted islands. We're sharing 2 true stories from fishermen who've seen things in the Andaman Sea that science can't explain. We're revealing why experienced captains refuse to anchor near certain locations, why local communities perform rituals before every fishing trip, and why Thai maritime superstitions aren't superstitions at all, they're survival rules written in blood. This is what happens when you ignore the warnings. This is why those beautiful islands stay empty, even though they're surrounded by rich fishing grounds. This is what Thai fishermen know, that tourists refuse to believe. Because in the Andaman Sea, between Thailand and Malaysia, there are places where the boundary between the living and the dead has worn so thin that it barely exists at all. Places where spirits outnumber fish. Places where anchoring your boat means you might never leave. Welcome to Thailand's cursed islands. Welcome to the waters where Phi Thale, the sea spirits, still claim victims. Welcome to the fishing grounds that experience captain's mark on their maps with warnings: do not approach, do not anchor, do not stay after dark. This is why fishermen refuse to go there, and after tonight, you'll understand why they're right to be afraid. Koh Hin Ngam sits in the Andaman Sea, about 2 kilometers west of Tarutao Island, which itself is part of Thailand's southernmost marine national park. The name translates to Island of Beautiful Stones, and it's an accurate description. The entire beach is covered in smooth, black oval stones that look like they've been polished by hand, millions of them, ranging from the size of your thumb to the size of your fist, all perfectly smooth, all the same deep black color that reflects light like obsidian. They're not obsidian though. They're sedimentary rock shaped over thousands of years by ocean currents, geologically unremarkable. But culturally and spiritually, these stones are among the most dangerous objects in Thailand, because according to local belief, these stones belong to Chaopho Tarutao, the guardian spirit of the Tarutao archipelago, and Chaopho Tarutao does not share. The curse of Koh Hin Ngam has been documented for at least 70 years, probably longer. The story begins during World War II, when the Thai government used Tarutao Island as a prison colony for political prisoners and criminals. Between 1938 and 1946, over 3,000 prisoners were sent to Tarutao, along with guards, administrators, and their families. The prison was supposed to be self-sufficient. Prisoners grew their own food, maintained their own buildings, and lived under a system that was supposed to reform them through labor and isolation. But during World War II, supply ships from the mainland stopped coming. The prisoners and guards were abandoned on the island with no food, no medicine, no support. People started dying. Malaria, starvation, violence. By 1944, the prison had descended into complete chaos. Some prisoners and guards banded together to become pirates, attacking passing ships and stealing supplies. Others tried to escape by building rafts and boats. Most of those who attempted escape drowned in the Andaman sea currents. When supply ships finally returned after the war ended, they found fewer than 1,000 people alive on Tarutao Island. Over 2,000 had died over those years, their bodies buried in shallow graves or simply left where they fell. And according to local fishermen, that's when Chaopho Tarutao emerged. The collective suffering and death of those 2,000 people created a powerful spirit entity that claimed the entire island chain as its territory. The spirit was especially protective of Koh Hin Ngam, where many dying prisoners had crawled to in hopes of being closer to passing ships. The warning became clear to local fishermen within a few years of the prison closing. If you take anything from Koh Hin Ngam, particularly the beautiful black stones, Chaopho Tarutao will punish you. Illness, accidents, financial ruin, death. The spirit doesn't forgive theft. Thai fishermen believed this immediately. They'd seen what happened during the war years. They'd heard the stories from survivors. They knew the waters around Tarutao were heavy with death and suffering. Avoiding Koh Hin Ngam was just common sense. But tourists thought it was superstitious nonsense. Somchai remembers when the curse became undeniable to outsiders. It was 1982, and Tarutao National Marine Park had just opened to tourists. The park rangers posted signs warning visitors not to take stones from Koh Hin Ngam, but they didn't explain why clearly enough. They just said prohibited without mentioning the curse. A group of German tourists visited the island that year. They spent the afternoon on the beach, swimming, taking photographs, and collecting the beautiful black stones as souvenirs. They filled their bags with them. One man estimated he took about 50 stones. Within a week, the entire group had fallen ill with severe dysentery that put 2 of them in the hospital. Their hotel in Phuket caught fire one night, destroying all their belongings except, mysteriously, the bags of black stones. One couple's rental car broke down 3 times in 2 days. Another tourist fell down a flight of stairs and broke her ankle. The German tour guide, a woman named Helga, who'd been living in Thailand for 5 years, recognized what was happening. She'd heard the stories about Koh Hin Ngam from local fishermen. She convinced the tourists to mail the stones back to the park rangers with apology letters. The tourists were skeptical, but they were also desperate. They sent the stones back. According to their later testimonies, the string of bad luck stopped immediately after they mailed the packages. No more illness. No more accidents. No more mechanical failures. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. The park rangers at Tarutao National Marine Park still have those stones. They're kept in a storage building, along with hundreds of other packages that arrive every year from around the world. Tourists who took stones from Koh Hin Ngam and then experienced such terrible misfortune that they sent them back, often with letters begging forgiveness. The rangers have kept some of these letters. I've seen photographs of them. They're heartbreaking and terrifying in equal measure. From a British couple in 2007, we took approximately 30 stones from Koh Hin Ngam during our honeymoon in April. Since returning to England, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. I lost my job, our house was burgled twice, and my mother passed away unexpectedly. We don't know if this is connected to the stones, but we're returning them, just in case. Please forgive us for our disrespect to the island spirit. From an Australian man in 2015, I took a handful of black stones from Koh Hin Ngam as gifts for friends. Within 2 months, I'd been in a serious motorcycle accident that nearly killed me. My business went bankrupt, and my marriage fell apart. I'm sending back every stone I can find. Please tell Chaopho Tarutao I'm sorry. I didn't know. I would never have taken them if I'd understood. From a Thai woman in 2019, My foreign boyfriend convinced me to take stones from Koh Hin Ngam even though I warned him about the curse. He said I was being superstitious. Since bringing the stones to Bangkok, I've experienced constant nightmares, sleep paralysis, and a feeling of being watched. My boyfriend left me and moved back to his country. I'm returning the stones and asking for forgiveness. I should have respected the warnings. The park rangers estimate they receive at least 50 packages of returned stones every year, some from Thailand, but most from overseas: Germany, England, Australia, France, America, Japan, Korea. The curse apparently works anywhere in the world. Distance doesn't matter. But what happens to fishermen who accidentally anchor near Koh Hin Ngam? The ones who don't take anything, but who get too close to the island without proper precautions. Somchai has experienced this twice in his 32 years of fishing, both times by accident, both times terrifying. The first time was in 1996. Somchai was 24 years old, relatively new to fishing, and he'd been chasing a school of tuna that led him closer to the Tarutao archipelago than he normally went. It was late afternoon, and he needed to anchor somewhere before dark. He spotted what looked like a sheltered cove near Koh Hin Ngam. His uncle, who was teaching him to fish, immediately protested. Not there. Anywhere but there. Why not? The water's calm, we're close to the island. We can anchor overnight and head back in the morning. That's Koh Hin Ngam. We don't anchor there. Ever. Somchai, young and skeptical, thought his uncle was being unnecessarily superstitious. The island looked peaceful, beautiful, even. What could possibly be dangerous about anchoring near it? His uncle finally agreed, but only if they performed a proper way crew ceremony first, showing respect to the spirits, asking permission to enter their waters, making offerings of food, incense, and flowers. They anchored about 100 meters from the black stone beach, close enough to see the stones clearly in the fading sunlight, far enough to feel safe. His uncle performed the ceremony carefully, speaking to Chaopho Tarutao in the old Chaolei language that sea gypsy fishermen had used for centuries. We mean no disrespect. We're not here to take anything. We just need shelter for the night. We'll leave in the morning. Please allow us safe passage. They laid out their offerings on a small float and let it drift toward the island. Then they settled in for the night. Somchai fell asleep around 9 p.m. He woke up at 2:17 a.m. to the sound of someone walking on his boat. Footsteps. Clear, distinct footsteps on the wooden deck. Slow, deliberate steps from the bow toward where Somchai and his uncle slept in the small cabin. Somchai sat up, his heart pounding. His uncle was already awake, sitting very still, his eyes wide. Don't move, his uncle whispered. Don't look. Don't acknowledge it. The footsteps continued, walking in circles around the cabin. Somchai could hear the wood creaking under weight, could hear the sound of wet feet on dry wood, leaving water trails. But when Somchai glanced through the cabin window, he saw no one. The deck was empty. The moon was bright enough that he could see clearly. There was nobody there. The footsteps continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 or 15 minutes, walking, pacing, circling the cabin, sometimes slow, sometimes faster, sometimes accompanied by other sounds, breathing, whispers in a language Somchai didn't understand, the sound of something dragging across the deck. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. Complete silence, except for the gentle lapping of waves against the boat. Somchai and his uncle didn't sleep for the rest of the night. They sat in the cabin, lights on, waiting for dawn. The moment the sun rose above the horizon, they pulled anchor and left. They didn't speak about what had happened until they were back in Phuket waters, far from Tarutao. What was that? Somchai finally asked. Fairy, sea spirits, probably prisoners who died trying to escape the island during the war. They're still here, still trying to get off the island, still looking for rescue that never came. They heard our boat, thought maybe we could help them, but we can't. We're alive, they're dead, and there's nothing we can do for them except show respect and stay out of their way. Why didn't the ceremony protect us? It did. We weren't harmed, were we? The spirits walked on our boat, but they didn't attack us, didn't try to sink us, didn't drag us into the water. That's because we showed proper respect. If we'd anchored without the ceremony, if we'd been disrespectful, it would have been much worse. What would have been worse? His uncle was quiet for a long moment. You don't want to know. Just trust me. It could have been much worse. Somchai didn't fish near Koh Hin Ngam again for 8 years, not until 2004, right after the tsunami. That's when things got even more complicated, because the 2004 tsunami didn't just devastate Thailand's coastal communities. It also disturbed every grave, every burial site, every place where human remains had been laid to rest near the ocean, including the thousands of unmarked graves on Tarutao Island from the prison colony era. The tsunami washed away earth, exposed remains, and scattered bones across the Andaman Sea, and according to Thai spiritual belief, this mass disturbance of human remains created a surge in spiritual activity. Ghosts that had been resting peacefully were awakened. Spirits that had been quiet became active again. Somchai was part of the rescue efforts. After the tsunami, he took his boat to Phi Phi Island, which had been devastated. He helped search for survivors, transported emergency supplies, and later helped with body recovery. That's where the second story takes place, at Phi Phi, where thousands died, and where the ocean became so full of death that fishermen can still feel it 20 years later. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami hit Thailand's Andaman coast on December 26 at approximately 10 a.m. The waves were between 10 and 30 meters high, traveling at speeds of up to 800 kilometers per hour. Phi Phi Island, a popular tourist destination, was hit particularly hard because of its geography. The island is shaped like a dumbbell, with two large areas connected by a narrow strip of land. The tsunami hit both sides simultaneously, crushing everything on the narrow strip between. Approximately 2,000 people died on Phi Phi Island that day. Locals and tourists, adults and children, Thai citizens and foreigners from dozens of countries. Many bodies were recovered in the days and weeks following the disaster, but many more were never found, swept out to sea by the retreating waves, lost in the Andaman depths. Somchai arrived at Phi Phi Island 3 days after the tsunami on December 29th. He'd been asked to help with rescue and recovery operations because he knew the waters well and had a sturdy fishing boat. What he saw there changed him forever. The island looked like it had been bombed. Buildings reduced to rubble, trees stripped of bark and leaves, boats smashed into buildings or carried hundreds of meters inland, and the overwhelming smell of death and decay that hung over everything like a physical presence. But it was the ocean that disturbed Somchai most. The water around Phi Phi Island had changed. It felt wrong, heavy, oppressive, like the ocean itself was mourning. Somchai spent 2 weeks helping with recovery efforts. During that time, he and other fishermen reported strange experiences in the waters around Phi Phi. Equipment malfunctioning for no reason, nets getting tangled in empty water, engines cutting out in perfectly calm seas. And most disturbing, the sense of being watched constantly, the feeling that the ocean was full of people you couldn't see. One evening, Somchai was anchored off the western coast of Phi Phi Don, the larger part of the island, helping to transport recovered remains to temporary morgues. It was about 7 p.m., just after sunset. The water was calm, the sky was clear, and Somchai was alone on his boat eating a simple dinner of rice and fish. That's when he heard singing. Female voices, multiple women, singing together. The melody was beautiful, haunting. It sounded like a lullaby, or maybe a funeral song. The voices seemed to be coming from the water itself, from all directions at once. Somchai stopped eating and listened. The singing continued for maybe 2 minutes, then faded away. He called out to another fishing boat anchored nearby. "Did you hear that? The singing." The other captain confirmed he'd heard it too. So did a third boat further down the coast. Multiple fishermen, all hearing the same thing at the same time. One of the older fishermen, a Cowley sea gypsy named Bumlua, explained what they'd heard. Those are mothers singing to their children. Women who died in the tsunami looking for their babies who were swept away, or maybe mothers who survived looking for children who died, withered away. It's a sound of grief. The ocean is full of it now. Over the following weeks, as recovery efforts continued, the reports of strange experiences multiplied. Divers working on underwater recovery reported seeing people swimming below them, but when they went to investigate, no one was there. Fishermen reported pulling up nets that felt impossibly heavy, as if filled with catch, but when they hauled them up, the nets were empty. And then there were the boats that wouldn't leave. Several fishing vessels reported that their engines would start fine during the day, but if they tried to leave after dark, the engines would die, repeatedly, Multiple boats, multiple nights, all experiencing the same mechanical failures that mechanics couldn't explain. The boats could leave during daylight hours with no problems, but after sunset, something prevented them from departing. Boon Lua, the Chole elder, explained this too. The spirits don't want to be alone at night. During the day, there are rescue workers, volunteers, people still searching. But at night, the island is dark and empty. The spirits are afraid of being abandoned again, so they keep boats nearby. They need to know someone is still there, still remembering, still caring. This explanation made sense to Somchai and the other Thai fishermen. The Buddhist and animist beliefs that underpin Thai culture include strong concepts of karma, merit-making, and responsibility to the dead. The people who died in the tsunami died suddenly, violently, without preparation. Their spirits would be confused, frightened, attached to the places where they died. The Thai government and local communities understood this. That's why they organized large-scale religious ceremonies in the months following the tsunami. Buddhist monks performed rituals to help spirits move on. Muslim imams led prayers for the dead. Christian priests held memorial services. Every religious community in Thailand contributed to the spiritual healing that needed to happen alongside the physical rebuilding. But some spirits, according to Thai belief, cannot be helped by ceremonies alone. Some deaths are so traumatic, so unexpected, so painful that the spirits remain trapped in a state of confusion and suffering. These spirits become Phi Thale, Hong, ghosts of violent or sudden death. They're not evil, but they're dangerous because they're unpredictable and often don't understand they're dead. Somchai experienced this firsthand about 3 weeks after the tsunami. He was helping transport a group of volunteers from Phi Phi back to Phuket. It was late afternoon, around 5 p.m., and they needed to leave soon to reach Phuket before dark. The volunteers were loading supplies onto his boat when Somchai noticed a woman standing on the beach, watching them. She was Thai, middle-aged, wearing a traditional fasten, wrapped skirt, and a white blouse. She looked completely dry, despite standing at the water's edge. She was just standing there, perfectly still, watching the boat. Somchai waved to her, thinking maybe she needed help or wanted to ask about the rescue efforts. She didn't respond, didn't wave back, just stood there, staring. One of the volunteers, a young Thai woman from Bangkok named Ploy, noticed Somchai looking at the beach. "What are you looking at?" "That woman, on the beach. Does she need help?" Ploy looked where Somchai was pointing. "What woman? There's no one there." Somchai looked again. The woman was still there, still watching him, clear as day. Right there, traditional clothes, standing at the waterline. Ploy's expression changed from confusion to concern. "Kun Somchai, there's no one on that beach. It's completely empty." That's when Somchai understood. The woman he was seeing wasn't alive. She was Phi Tai Hong, a spirit who died in the tsunami, still standing on the beach where she died, still watching boats come and go, still hoping maybe someone would help her find her family. Somchai performed a quick way, a respectful bow with pressed palms toward the beach. He said a quiet prayer, asking Buddha to guide the woman's spirit toward peace. Then he finished loading the boat and left for Phuket. But he saw her in his dreams for months afterward, always standing on the same beach, always wearing the same clothes, always watching with an expression that mixed hope and heartbreak in equal measure. That experience taught Somchai something important about the waters around Phi Phi Island post-tsunami. They would never be the same. Too much death had occurred in too short a time. Too many people had died without warning, without preparation, without saying goodbye to their families. The spiritual imprint of that tragedy would remain in those waters for generations. And Thai fishermen, who understand these things in ways that outsiders often don't, adjusted their behavior accordingly. They don't fish at night near Phi Phi Island anymore, not because the fish aren't there, but because the waters at night belong to the dead. Fishermen will anchor near the island during the day, but they make sure to leave before sunset. They perform ceremonies before entering Phi Phi waters, even 20 years after the tsunami, showing respect to the spirits, asking permission, making offerings, acknowledging that this is no longer just a fishing ground. It's a memorial, a gravesite, a place where thousands of souls still linger. And they share their stories with younger fishermen, teaching them which waters to avoid, which islands carry curses, which places demand special respect and careful behavior. Because in Thailand, where Buddhism and animism blend seamlessly into everyday life, where belief in spirits is as common as belief in the weather forecast. Fishermen don't separate the practical from the spiritual. They're the same thing. You avoid Koh Hin Ngam not because you're superstitious, but because taking those stones will genuinely ruin your life. You don't anchor near Phi Phi at night, not because you're afraid of ghosts, but because disturbing spirits who are already suffering is both dangerous and morally wrong. You perform ceremonies and make offerings, not because you think they're magic spells, but because showing respect to the dead is simply what decent people do. And when tourists mock these beliefs, when foreigners laugh and call Thai fishermen primitive or superstitious, the fishermen don't get angry. They just shake their heads sadly, knowing that some people have to learn these lessons the hard way. Like Paul, the British tourist from the beginning of this story, who took stones from Koh Hin Ngam and learned very quickly that curses don't care whether you believe in them or not. To understand why Thai fishermen take these warnings so seriously, you need to understand the cultural and spiritual framework that shapes their worldview. Thailand's approach to spirits isn't a religion exactly. It's more like a practical acknowledgement of forces that exist whether you believe in them or not. Thai Buddhism, which is practiced by about 95% of Thailand's population, doesn't deny the existence of spirits. In fact, Buddhism incorporates them into its cosmology. The Buddha himself talked about various types of non-human beings, devas, nagas, yakshas, pretas, and yes, vep, ghosts or spirits. But Thailand's spirit beliefs predate Buddhism by thousands of years. They come from animist traditions that see the natural world as alive with consciousness and intention. Rivers have spirits, mountains have spirits, old trees have spirits, the ocean definitely has spirits. These beliefs aren't abstract philosophy. They're practical guidelines for living safely in a world where you're not alone, where your actions have consequences beyond the physical, where showing respect or disrespect to unseen forces can dramatically affect your life. This is why every Thai fishing boat has a spirit house mounted on the bow or stern. It's a small shrine, usually ornate and colorful, that serves as a home for the Frau Rui, the boat spirit that protects the vessel and its crew. Before every fishing trip, the captain makes offerings to the Frau Rui, incense, flowers, sometimes food or whiskey, always respect. This isn't superstition, it's a relationship. You take care of the spirit takes care of you. You ignore the spirit, and you're on your own, in dangerous waters. The Chaopho people, sometimes called sea gypsies, have an even deeper relationship with ocean spirits. The Chaopho are an indigenous people who have lived along Thailand's Andaman coast for centuries, possibly millennia. They have their own language, their own customs, and their own highly developed spiritual traditions specifically focused on ocean worship. For the Chaopho, the ocean isn't just water, it's a living entity with moods, preferences, and the ability to grant or withhold favor. The ocean must be approached with the same respect you'd show a powerful elder or ruler. You ask permission before you fish. You express gratitude when the catch is good. You apologize when you accidentally offend. The Kaole have hundreds of specific rules about ocean behavior, passed down through generations that most outsiders dismiss as superstition, but that Kaole fishermen swear have kept them safe for centuries. Don't point at the ocean with your feet. Extremely disrespectful in Thai culture. Don't speak disrespectfully about the ocean or call it names, even jokingly. Don't urinate or defecate directly into the ocean if you can avoid it. Don't throw trash or waste into the ocean without apology. Always make offerings before long fishing trips. Never ignore strange weather patterns or unusual animal behavior. These are warnings from ocean spirits. And most importantly, respect the sacred places. Some islands, some reefs, some stretches of water belong to particular powerful spirits. You don't enter those areas without permission, and you certainly don't take anything from them. Koh Hin Ngam is one of those sacred places. For the Kaole fishermen who live in the region, the island has always been spiritually significant. Even before the prison colony era, the black stones themselves are unusual geologically. They shouldn't exist in that formation shaped that way, all identical. The Kaole believe they were placed there intentionally by Chaopho Tarutao as a marker of his territory. When the prison was established and thousands of people died there, it only reinforced what the Kaole already knew. Tarutao and the surrounding islands are places of power and danger. Approach with respect or pay the price. This explains why Thai fishermen take the Koh Hin Ngam curse seriously, while tourists don't for Thai fishermen, especially those with Achula heritage. The curse isn't a supernatural surprise. It's a completely predictable consequence of violating sacred space. Of course, taking stones from Chaopho Tarutao's territory will bring misfortune. Of course, the guardian spirit will punish theft. That's how this works. That's how it's always worked. But modern Western culture has lost this framework entirely. We've convinced ourselves that the natural world is inert, that consciousness exists only in human brains, that spirits and supernatural forces are fairy tales for children and primitive people. So when a European tourist takes stones from Koh Hin Ngam, he's not consciously choosing to violate sacred space. He's not deliberately insulting a spirit. He genuinely doesn't believe any of that is real. And then the curse hits him, and he's completely unprepared. His entire worldview doesn't account for what's happening. Modern medicine can't explain his sudden string of illnesses and injuries. Modern psychology can't explain his run of catastrophically bad luck. Modern science has no framework for understanding why his life fell apart immediately after taking some rocks from a beach in Thailand. Eventually, if the person is open-minded enough or desperate enough, they might consider that maybe, possibly, the curse is real. Maybe the Thai fishermen weren't being superstitious. Maybe they were sharing genuinely important information that the tourist ignored. That's when the stones get mailed back, usually with a letter that shows the writer's complete confusion about what's happening to them. They don't really believe in curses, but they also can't explain their circumstances any other way, so they're willing to try returning the stones just to see if it helps. And according to testimony after testimony, year after year, it does help. The moment the stones are sent back, the string of bad luck ends. Illnesses suddenly improve. Accidents stop happening. Financial problems resolve themselves. The park rangers at Tarutao National Marine Park have been documenting this pattern for over 40 years. They've seen hundreds, probably thousands of cases of people who took stones, experienced misfortune, returned the stones, and recovered. The rangers themselves, even those who come from Bangkok or other parts of Thailand with less connection to traditional spirit beliefs, become believers after working at Tarutao for a while. They see too many cases, they talk to too many desperate people, they witness too many patterns that coincidence can't explain. One ranger I spoke to, we'll call him Pong, told me about a Japanese couple who visited Koh Hin Ngam in 2011. They were both successful professionals, well-educated, not particularly spiritual. They took about 20 stones as gifts for friends and family in Tokyo. Within 3 months, both had lost their jobs. Their apartment was burgled. They were in a serious car accident. One of them developed a mysterious illness that Tokyo doctors couldn't diagnose. They didn't connect any of this to the stones until a Thai friend visited Tokyo, saw the stones displayed in their apartment, and immediately told them to return them. The couple was skeptical but desperate. They mailed the stones back with a polite letter apologizing if they had inadvertently offended any spirits or broken any rules. Pong remembers receiving that package and letter. He performed a small ceremony to return the stones to the island, asking Chaopho Tarutao to forgive the Japanese couple and lift any curse that had been placed on them. The couple later emailed to say that, within 2 weeks of sending the stones back, the husband got a job offer, the wife's mysterious illness resolved completely, and their insurance company unexpectedly covered more of their car accident expenses than anticipated. I've seen this pattern so many times now, Pong told me. Always the same. People take stones, bad things happen, they return stones, bad things stop. Sometimes the recovery is gradual, sometimes it's immediate, but it always follows the same pattern. Do you believe the curse is real? I asked. I don't need to believe, Pong said. I just need to observe, and what I observe over and over again is that people who take stones from Koh Hin Ngam experience serious misfortune until they return them, whether that's a curse, coincidence, psychological phenomena, or something else. The practical advice is the same: don't take the stones. This is exactly the attitude most Thai fishermen have. They're not trying to convince anyone that spirits are real or that curses work. They're just sharing practical information. If you do X, Y tends to happen. If you want to avoid Y, don't do X. Take stones from Koh Hin Ngam. Can bad things happen? Want to avoid bad things? Don't take the stones. Anchor near Phi Phi Island. After sunset, your equipment malfunctions and you feel watched all night. Want to avoid that? Anchor somewhere else or leave before dark. Fish in sacred waters without proper ceremony. You catch nothing and risk angering spirits. Want good catches and safe trips. Perform the ceremonies. It's not about belief, it's about results. And Thai fishermen have centuries of collective experience showing them which behaviors lead to which results. That's why they don't argue with tourists who mock their beliefs. Why waste energy arguing when the tourists will learn the truth soon enough? Either they'll be lucky and nothing bad will happen, which does occasionally occur. Not everyone who takes stones gets cursed, though the percentage is high enough to be concerning, or they'll learn the hard way that Thai fishermen knew what they were talking about all along. Somchai has seen both outcomes. He's seen tourists take stones and seemingly get away with it, but he's also seen tourists take stones and experience immediate dramatic consequences that couldn't possibly be explained by chance. Like the Australian man in 2016 who took a bag of stones from Koh Hin Ngam as souvenirs. That evening, back at his Phuket hotel, he tripped on flat ground and broke his ankle. While recovering in the hospital, he developed a severe infection. 3 days after taking the stones, he was medically evacuated back to Australia with sepsis that nearly killed him. Or the Thai teenager in 2018 who took just one stone because his foreign girlfriend wanted a souvenir. That night, he was in a motorcycle accident that totaled his bike. The next day, his phone was stolen. The day after that, he woke up covered in hives that doctors couldn't explain. His grandmother, a traditional Thai woman who knew about Koh Hin Ngam, recognized what was happening immediately. She took the stone from him, traveled to Tarutao herself, returned it to the island with a full ceremony and offerings, and begged Chaopho Tarutao's forgiveness for her grandson's ignorance. The hives cleared up that same day. These aren't isolated incidents. They're a pattern that's been observed and documented for decades. And Thai fishermen who live and work in these waters every day are the primary witnesses and record keepers of this pattern. They remember who took stones and what happened to them. They remember which tourists showed proper respect and which ones were arrogant or dismissive. They remember which boats anchored where and which captains encountered strange experiences. This collective memory forms an oral tradition that's just as valid as any scientific study. When an entire community of people who spend their lives on the ocean all say the same thing, don't anchor there, don't take those stones, don't disrespect those spirits. Maybe the smart response is to listen, not to dismiss them as primitive or superstitious. Because ultimately, Thai fishermen aren't asking anyone to believe anything. They're just offering advice based on experience. You can take it or leave it, but if you leave it, you're taking a gamble that might not pay off the way you expect. The second major location that Thai fishermen avoid is actually a broader area, the waters directly around Phi Phi Island, especially the western coast where the tsunami hit hardest. This isn't about a specific curse like Koh Hin Ngam. It's about collective trauma and the spiritual aftermath of mass death. Somchai and other fishermen who participated in the 2004 tsunami recovery efforts shared remarkably consistent experiences, not just strange sounds or feelings, but specific repeated phenomena that multiple witnesses confirmed independently. One of the most common reports was lights on the water at night, not boat lights or fishing lights, but pale, blue-white lights that appeared underwater or hovering just above the surface, moving slowly along the coast where the tsunami waves had struck. Western observers might explain these as bioluminescence, but Thai fishermen know the difference between natural light from plankton and something else entirely. These lights were larger, more sustained, and moved with apparent purpose, rather than drifting randomly with currents. According to Thai spirit belief, these lights are manifestations of spiritual energy. Places where deaths occurred often show unusual light phenomena, especially at night. It's not the spirits themselves, but rather their presence disturbing the natural energy flow of a location. The lights around Phi Phi Island were particularly intense in the first year after the tsunami, according to Somchai and other fishermen. They would appear almost every night, sometimes dozens of them, moving along the beaches and through the water where bodies had been recovered. But the lights weren't the most disturbing phenomenon. That honor goes to what fishermen called the calling. Multiple fishermen, working independently on different nights, reported hearing their names called from the water. Not a woman's voice or a man's voice specifically, but multiple voices overlapping, all saying the same name in unison. The fisherman's name, spoken clearly, as if people in the water were trying to get his attention. The first rule of Thai maritime spirit beliefs is never respond when you hear your name called from the water at night. Never look directly toward the voice, never acknowledge it. Because, according to tradition, spirits of the drowned want company. They're lonely, they're confused, and they want other people to join them in the water. If you respond to your name being called, if you acknowledge the voices, you're opening yourself to spirit attachment or even possession. You might feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to jump into the water. You might see someone you know swimming nearby who needs help. You might hear children crying in the waves and feel compelled to rescue them. All of these are tricks. All of these are dangerous. All of these can lead to you drowning because you are lured into the water by spirits who don't understand they're dead and can't comprehend why living people can't breathe underwater like they now can. One fisherman named Narong experienced this directly in January 2005, about a month after the tsunami. He was anchored off Phi Phi's western coast, doing some late evening fishing despite warnings from other fishermen to avoid the area after dark. Around 10 p.m., Nerong heard his name called from the water, multiple voices speaking in unison, Nerong, 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 Nerong. He knew the rule. He didn't respond. He didn't look. He kept his eyes on his fishing line and tried to ignore the voices. But the calling continued, for hours, sometimes closer, sometimes farther away, but always there, always saying his name. Then he heard his daughter's voice, his 8-year-old daughter, who was safely at home in Krabi with Narong's wife. Papa, I'm in the water. Papa, help me. I can't swim, Papa. Narong's heart nearly stopped. Every instinct told him to look, to jump in, to save his daughter. But the rational part of his mind knew this couldn't be real. His daughter was not in the water. His daughter was home. This was a trick. He grabbed his phone and called his wife. He answered immediately, sounding worried because it was late. Is Saploy okay? Narong asked, using his daughter's nickname. She's sleeping. Why? What's wrong? Just checking. I'll be home tomorrow. Keep her safe. The moment Narong confirmed his daughter was safe, the voice in the water changed. It was still his daughter's voice, but the tone shifted from frightened to angry. Why won't you help me, Papa? I'm right here. Come get me. Then, it wasn't just his daughter's voice. It was multiple voices, dozens of voices, all speaking at once. Help us. Come get us. We're right here. Why won't you help us? Narong immediately fired up his engine and left. Even though it was the middle of the night and leaving was dangerous, he decided risking navigation in darkness was better than staying in those waters another minute. As he pulled away, he looked back once, breaking the rule about not looking but fear overrode training. In the moonlight, he could see the water was full of people, dozens, maybe hundreds of people, swimming in the waves near Phi Phi Island's western shore. But their movements were wrong. They weren't swimming like living people. They were moving with the water, letting the currents take them, drifting back and forth with each wave like floating objects, rather than people trying to swim. Narong realized he was looking at the spirits of tsunami victims, still in the water, still at the location where they died, still calling out for help that would never come. He didn't sleep for 3 days after that experience. He told his story to other fishermen who believed him immediately because several of them had experienced similar things. The local Buddhist monks heard about these encounters and organized a large-scale ceremony on Phi Phi Island. Hundreds of monks came from across Thailand to perform rituals meant to guide the spirits of tsunami victims toward rebirth. The ceremonies lasted a full week, with prayers and chanting dawn to dusk. Did it help? According to the fishermen who worked those waters, yes. The phenomena didn't stop completely, but they became less intense and less frequent after the Buddhist ceremonies. The lights still appear occasionally, especially around the tsunami anniversary date of December 26th. Fishermen still sometimes hear voices calling from the water, but the overwhelming sense of grief and spiritual chaos that dominated those waters in the first year after the tsunami has faded. However, and this is important, the waters around Phi Phi Island never returned to their pre-tsunami state. Thai fishermen say the spiritual atmosphere there is permanently changed. The island will carry the mark of that tragedy forever. This is why experienced fishermen avoid anchoring there at night. During the day, the area is relatively normal. Fishing is okay. Tourist boats operate without problems. Divers explore the reefs, but after sunset, the waters belong to the dead. Boats that anchor near Phi Phi at night report Engines that won't start when it's time to leave, even though they worked fine earlier. Electrical systems that malfunction without explanation. Anchors that seem caught on something heavy underwater, but when pulled up, nothing is tangled in them. Intense feelings of sadness, anxiety, or fear, with no obvious source. Dreams so vivid and disturbing that fishermen wake up exhausted rather than rested. The sense of being watched by many people, even though the boat is alone. These experiences are so common, so consistent across different fishermen on different nights, that they can't be dismissed as individual hallucinations or superstition. Something real is happening in those waters. Whether you call it spirits, residual energy, collective trauma, or something else, the practical effect is the same. Boats that anchor near Phi Phi Island at night have bad experiences, while boats that anchor elsewhere do not. Thai fishermen have adapted their practices accordingly. They mark Phi Island waters on their charts with annotations about avoiding overnight stays. They plan their routes to ensure they're away from the island by sunset. They tell younger fishermen about the dangers, passing along the knowledge that keeps people safe. And when tourists ask why fishermen won't take them to certain locations at certain times, the fishermen try to explain, but often the explanations fall on skeptical ears. Western tourists in particular have difficulty accepting that spirits might be real, that certain waters might be dangerous for reasons that have nothing to do with currents or weather. They think Thai fishermen are either trying to scam them or are just ignorant and superstitious. What these tourists don't understand is that Thai fishermen have no incentive to lie. Tourist trips pay much better than fishing. If a fisherman could safely take tourists to these locations at night, he'd do it. The money would be excellent. But fishermen refuse because they know, either from personal experience or from the experiences of others they trust, that bad things happen in those places, and no amount of money is worth risking your life, your boat, or your sanity. Somchai has been offered as much as 20,000 baht to anchor near Phi Phi Island overnight for tourists who want to photograph the area at night or think experiencing the haunted location would be exciting. He refuses every time. The tourists think it would be fun, like a ghost tour or haunted house. Somchai explains, they don't understand that this isn't entertainment, this isn't a game. These are real spirits of real people who died real deaths in real tragedy. You don't play games with that. You don't treat it like tourism. This attitude, treating the spirit-affected waters with respect rather than as entertainment, is common among Thai fishermen. They're not trying to profit from tragedy. They're not turning suffering into a tourist attraction. They're simply trying to live and work safely in waters that they know are spiritually active, and they're trying to prevent tourists from making mistakes that could genuinely harm them. Because, while the curse of Koh Hin Ngam primarily affects people who take the stones, the spiritual atmosphere around Phi Phi Island can affect anyone who enters those waters after dark, regardless of their beliefs or intentions. You don't have to believe in spirits to experience equipment malfunctions, disturbing dreams, or the overwhelming sense of being watched. These things happen to skeptics and believers alike. The difference is that believers understand what's happening and how to protect themselves, while skeptics are left confused and frightened, unable to explain their experiences with their materialist worldview. Thai fishermen would prefer that everyone, especially tourists, just listen to their warnings and avoid the dangerous areas. But if people insist on ignoring the warnings, at least the fishermen can say they tried to help. And when those tourists come back from their night anchored near Phi Phi Island, pale, exhausted, shaken, insisting they'll never do that again, the fishermen don't say, "I told you so." They just nod, knowingly, and offer prayers that the tourists weren't too seriously affected by their encounter with forces they didn't believe in until it was too late. The question that outsiders always ask is, why do some people experience these phenomena while others don't? If the curse of Koh Hin Ngam is real, why doesn't it affect every single person who takes stones? If the waters around Phi Phi are spiritually active, why do some boats anchor there without problems? Thai spiritual traditions have complex answers to these questions, but they boil down to a few key factors: intention, respect, sensitivity, and protection. Intention matters because spirits can apparently sense why you're doing something. Taking stones from Koh Hin Ngam because you want a beautiful souvenir is theft, and Chaopho Tarutao responds accordingly. But taking stones because you're a geologist studying the island's formation or because you're a park ranger maintaining the area, doesn't trigger the same response. Somchai knows a Thai marine biologist who has taken stones from Koh Hin Ngam multiple times for scientific research. She's never experienced any negative consequences, but she also performs proper ceremonies before collecting samples, asks permission from Chaopho Tarutao, explains her purpose, and always returns the stones to the island after her research is complete. Intention and respect make the difference between respectful borrowing, which is tolerated, and disrespectful theft, which is punished. Respect is demonstrated through behavior and ritual. When fishermen anchor near sensitive areas, they perform ceremonies acknowledging the spirits that live there. They make offerings. They ask permission. They promise not to disturb or damage anything. These aren't empty gestures. According to Thai belief, they create a relationship between the living people and the spirits of the place. You're not just entering someone's territory uninvited. You're announcing yourself, showing respect, and establishing that you come in peace. Tourists who take stones from Koh Hin Ngam without any ceremony or acknowledgement of the island's spiritual significance are essentially committing theft without even recognizing that what they're taking belongs to someone. That's the worst kind of disrespect, not malicious, but completely ignorant and dismissive. Sensitivity refers to how attuned a person is to spiritual energy. Some people are naturally more sensitive to these phenomena, while others seem largely unaffected. This doesn't mean the spirits aren't there or that the curse isn't real. It just means that some people can sense spiritual presence more easily than others, the same way some people have better hearing or sharper vision than average. In Thai culture, people who are especially sensitive to spirits are often called Pop, a term that can mean spirit medium, oracle, or just someone who sees and hears things others don't. These individuals are both valued for their ability to communicate with spirits and provide guidance, and pitied because being constantly aware of spiritual presence can be exhausting and frightening. Somchai admits he's probably more sensitive than average. He's had multiple encounters with spirits throughout his life, starting from childhood. His grandmother was a traditional spirit medium, and sensitivity apparently runs in families. This sensitivity is why Somchai experiences phenomena in waters where other fishermen might not, but he also knows how to protect himself, which is the final key factor. Protection comes in many forms in Thai spiritual practice. The most common methods include amulets and talismans. Most Thai people, especially those who work in dangerous professions like fishing, wear protective amulets blessed by Buddhist monks. These are often images of famous monks, Buddha statues, or sacred symbols that provide spiritual protection. Somchai wears 3 amulets, one blessed by a famous monk from his hometown temple, one that belonged to his grandfather, and therefore carries family protective energy, and one specifically designed to protect against water spirits. He's worn these for decades and credits them with keeping him safe during his many encounters with the paranormal. Protective tattoos, sakyan. Traditional Thai sacred tattoos provide spiritual protection, strength, and good fortune. Many fishermen have sakyan tattooed on their backs, shoulders, or chests by Buddhist monks or traditional tattoo masters who specialize in spiritual designs. Somchai has a large sakyan on his back depicting Hanuman, the monkey deity from Hindu-Buddhist tradition known for strength and protection. The tattoo was blessed during a multi-hour ceremony by a famous sakyan master in the Khonsi Tamarat. Somchai believes this tattoo has saved his life multiple times, not from spirits, but from dangerous situations at sea where he survived when others didn't. Ceremonies and offerings. Regular merit-making ceremonies, offerings to boat spirits, and prayers to protective deities create ongoing spiritual protection. It's not a one-time thing. It's a continuous relationship that needs to be maintained. Knowledge and proper behavior. Perhaps, most importantly, knowing the rules and following them provides protection. If you know not to respond when you hear your name called from water at night, you're much safer than someone who doesn't know that rule. These protective measures aren't foolproof. Even people who do everything right can sometimes have negative experiences, but according to Thai belief, proper protection significantly reduces the risk and severity of spiritual encounters. The combination of these factors, intention, respect, sensitivity, and protection, explains why experiences vary so much from person to person. 2 people can take stones from Koh Hin Ngam, and one might experience catastrophic bad luck, while the other seems fine. But if you look closer, You'll usually find differences in how they approached the situation, what their intentions were, what level of respect they showed, how sensitive they are to spiritual phenomena, and what protective measures they had in place. Thai fishermen understand these nuances. They don't claim that everyone who breaks the rules will be punished, only that breaking the rules significantly increases your risk. It's like saying don't swim during a storm. Not everyone who swims during storms will drown, but you're playing with danger unnecessarily. And just as a safety-conscious person wouldn't swim during a storm, just because some people have done it and survived, a spiritually aware Thai fisherman won't anchor near forbidden islands, just because some boats have done so without obvious consequences. The potential cost is too high, the risk isn't worth taking, and there are always alternative options that are safer. This pragmatic risk management approach is what outsiders often miss when they criticize Thai spirit beliefs as superstition. Thai fishermen aren't blindly following irrational taboos. They're making calculated decisions based on collective experience, cultural knowledge, and personal encounters with phenomena that, while unusual, are real enough to warrant caution. Somchai puts it this way. If I tell you that boats that anchor near Phi Phi Island at night have engine problems, and you witness 5 boats anchor there and 4 of them have engine problems the next morning, are you going to anchor there? Even if you don't believe in spirits, even if you think there's some mundane explanation, wouldn't you choose to anchor somewhere else just to be safe? That's the fisherman's logic, not blind superstition, but practical caution based on observed patterns. And when those patterns are reinforced, decade after decade, generation after generation, across hundreds of individual fishermen, all reporting similar experiences, the weight of evidence becomes impossible to dismiss, at least for people who are willing to listen. The problem is that most tourists aren't willing to listen. They come to Thailand with preconceived notions that spirit beliefs are backwards and irrational. They assume that educated, modern people know better than primitive fishermen. This attitude is not just disrespectful, it's dangerous. Because whether you believe in the supernatural or not, certain behaviors in certain places lead to negative outcomes. You can explain those outcomes however you want. Curse, coincidence, psychological factors, environmental causes, but the pattern remains. Take stones from Koh Hin Ngam. Bad things happen. Ignore warnings about sensitive waters. You have frightening experiences. Mock the beliefs that protect people, and you remove your own protection. Thai fishermen have seen this pattern play out so many times that they no longer try to convince skeptics. They just share their knowledge with anyone willing to listen, and they let experience teach everyone else. But there's one more aspect of this phenomenon that needs explaining. Why are these particular islands so spiritually active? Why Koh Hin Ngam and Phi Phi Island specifically, when there are hundreds of islands in the Andaman Sea? The answer lies in the concept of spiritual accumulation. Places where intense emotions occur, suffering, death, violence, grief, accumulate spiritual energy over time. One death might not leave a lasting mark, but hundreds or thousands of deaths in the same location create a permanent spiritual imprint. Koh Hin Ngam and the Tarutao archipelago. Over 2,000 deaths during the prison colony years, plus centuries of shipwrecks and drownings in those treacherous waters before the prison was even built. The accumulation of suffering is enormous. Phi Phi Island. Approximately 2,000 deaths in a single day during the 2004 tsunami, plus ongoing deaths from accidents and drownings in the years since. The sudden, violent, unprepared nature of those tsunami deaths created particularly strong spiritual energy. These aren't random locations. They're places where death has occurred on a massive scale, where the boundary between life and death has been crossed so many times that it's become permanently weakened. The Thai fishermen also know that spiritual activity increases during certain times. The full moon and new moon are particularly active times according to Thai belief. So is the period of Hungry Ghost Month, the 7th lunar month in the Chinese calendar, usually July or August, when the gates between the world of the living and the world of the dead are believed to be most open. Somchai plans his fishing schedule around these periods. He avoids sensitive waters during full moons. He's especially careful during Hungry Ghost Month, and he never ever fishes near forbidden islands during these high activity times. Other fishermen might think I'm being overcautious. Somchai says they fish where they want, when they want, and most of the time they're fine, but I've seen enough to know that the risk is real. and I'm not willing to gamble with my life or my boat just to prove I'm brave or modern or skeptical. This caution has served Somchai well. In 32 years of fishing, he's never had a serious accident. He's never lost a boat. He's never had unexplainable mechanical failures. He's encountered spirits multiple times, but he's never been harmed because he always approaches them with respect and proper protection. Compare that to younger fishermen who ignore the old ways, who fish wherever they want without ceremonies or precautions. Somchai can list a dozen of them who've had serious problems: boats that sank for no apparent reason, engines that failed in dangerous situations, illnesses that struck suddenly after fishing in forbidden waters, even deaths that couldn't be explained by weather or mechanical failure. The ocean keeps score. Somchai says, you can disrespect the spirits for a while and seem to get away with it, but eventually the debt comes due. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but eventually the spirits have patience. They have all the time in the world. We don't. This long-term view is another aspect of Thai spirit beliefs that outsiders often miss. Our Western culture tends to think in terms of immediate cause and effect. If you do something wrong and aren't immediately punished, you assume you got away with it. The Thai spiritual tradition teaches that karma works on longer time scales. Breaking spiritual rules might not result in instant consequences. The curse might take days, weeks, even months to manifest, but it will manifest. That's why return stones packages arrive at Tarutao National Marine Park months or even years after the stones were taken. The tourists took stones in January, seemed fine for a while. Then by June or July, their life had fallen apart so completely that they were willing to try anything, even returning some rocks to Thailand just in case the curse was real. The park rangers have noticed another pattern. The longer someone waits to return the stones, the worse their experiences become. It's as if the curse compounds over time, gaining strength the longer the theft goes unaddressed. This creates a terrible situation for skeptics. By the time their run of bad luck is severe enough to make them consider that maybe, possibly, the curse is real, they've already accumulated months of spiritual debt. Returning the stones helps, but it might not completely undo all the damage. This is why Thai fishermen emphasize prevention over cure. Don't take the stones in the first place. Don't anchor in forbidden waters. Don't break the rules, because fixing the problem later is much harder than avoiding it in the first place. In 2023, 20 years after the tsunami, and decades after the stories about Koh Hin Ngam became widely known, you might think tourists would have learned these lessons. You might think the warnings would be taken seriously. But human nature doesn't change. Every year, new tourists arrive in Thailand with no knowledge of local beliefs. Every year, some of them take stones from Koh Hin Ngam, despite the warning signs. Every year, some of them anchor near Phi Phi Island at night despite local advice. And every year, the same patterns repeat, the same mysterious illnesses, the same unexplainable accidents, the same desperate emails to park rangers, begging for guidance on how to return cursed stones. Paul, the British tourist from our opening story, did eventually recover from his string of bad luck after returning the stones, but he told his story to a travel blogger who published it online. The article went viral in backpacker communities, with thousands of comments debating whether the curse was real or just coincidence. The comments split, predictably. People who'd visited Thailand and encountered similar phenomena believed the curse was real. People who hadn't experienced it themselves insisted it was superstition, confirmation bias, or psychological factors. But one comment stood out. It was from a Thai fishing guide named Somchai, who wrote, "I've worked in the Andaman Sea my entire life. I've guided hundreds of tourists. I've seen the ones who respect our warnings and the ones who ignore them. And I can tell you this, the ocean doesn't care if you believe in spirits or not. The ocean doesn't care if you're educated or skeptical or rational. The ocean has its own rules, and those rules apply to everyone equally. You can call it spirits, you can call it bad luck, you can call it coincidence, but the pattern is always the same. Show respect, stay safe. Show disrespect, suffer consequences. That's not superstition, that's just how it works here." This comment received hundreds of upvotes and dozens of replies from other Thai fishermen, guides, and locals, confirming the same message. The Andaman Sea has rules. Those rules are enforced. You can believe or not believe, but you can't opt out of the consequences. Somchai, now in his 50s, continues to fish the same waters he's fished for over 3 decades. He still performs ceremonies before every trip. He still makes offerings to the Frey Ryuza spirit that protects his boat. He still avoids Koh Hin Ngam and Phi Phi Island at night. He still teaches younger fishermen about the spirits, the warnings, and the proper ways to show respect. And he still shakes his head when he sees tourist boats anchored near forbidden islands after sunset, or when he hears about another foreigner who took stones from Koh Hin Ngam. They'll learn, he says. Everyone learns eventually. Some people learn from listening to warnings. Others learn from experience. Either way, the ocean teaches the lesson. The Thai government has tried to address this issue in recent years. The warning signs at Koh Hin Ngam are now more explicit, explaining not just that taking stones is prohibited, but why. They mention the curse directly, describe the documented cases of misfortune, and urge visitors to respect local spiritual beliefs. The signs are in multiple languages: Thai, English, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. The message is clear and specific. Taking stones from this island is forbidden and will bring serious misfortune. Hundreds of documented cases prove this is not superstition. Please respect this sacred place. Tourism officials were initially reluctant to put such blunt warnings on official government signs, worried it would make Thailand seem backwards or unscientific. But the park rangers insisted, arguing that protecting tourists from genuine danger is more important than managing Thailand's image. The new signs have helped somewhat. Fewer tourists take stones now, but some still do, either because they can't read the signs, because they think the warnings are exaggerated, or because they want the curse as part of their adventure story. Those who take stones often post about it on social media, showing off their forbidden souvenirs and mocking the curse. These posts typically appear within days of taking the stones. What's interesting is that many of these social media accounts go silent. A few weeks or months later, the curse isn't instant. Remember, it builds over time. So the tourist who posted laughing photos with stolen stones in March might not post again after April, when the string of bad luck has become undeniable. Some of these tourists later post updates, admitting they returned the stones and warning others not to make the same mistake. But many just quietly delete their original posts and never mention it again, too embarrassed to admit they were wrong. Thai fishermen watch these cycles with a mixture of pity and frustration. Pity because they genuinely don't want anyone to suffer. Frustration because the suffering is so easily preventable if people would just listen. We're not trying to scare tourists, Somchai explains. We're trying to protect them. The same way we'd warn someone not to swim in dangerous currents or not to handle venomous sea creatures. The spirit rules are just another type of danger that exists here. We've learned how to navigate them safely. We're trying to share that knowledge, but you can't help people who don't want to be helped. The sad reality is that some tourists treat these warnings as a challenge. They take stones specifically because they've been told not to, wanting to prove that curses aren't real or that they're brave enough to risk it. These people almost always suffer the worst consequences. According to Thai spiritual belief, deliberately defying spiritual warnings shows such profound disrespect that the resulting curse is particularly severe. The park rangers at Tarutao can identify packages from deliberate transgressors versus accidental ones based on the letters included. Accidental transgressors write apologetic letters explaining they didn't understand, they didn't mean disrespect, they're sorry. Deliberate transgressors write desperate letters describing how they took the stones as a joke or a dare, thought nothing would happen, and are now experiencing such terrible luck that they're terrified. The rangers show mercy to both types, performing return ceremonies for all stones regardless of the taker's original intentions. But they've noticed that deliberate transgressors often take longer to recover even after returning the stones, as if the curse is harder to lift when the initial theft was willful rather than ignorant. This aligns with Thai spiritual understanding. Intention matters. Accidentally offending spirits through ignorance is forgivable. Deliberately offending them through arrogance or defiance is much more serious. As Thailand continues to develop and modernize, younger generations of Thais are increasingly caught between traditional beliefs and modern skepticism. Some young Thai people, especially those educated in Bangkok or overseas, dismiss spirit beliefs as backward superstition that holds Thailand back from progress. But even many educated, modern Thais maintain respect for certain spiritual traditions, especially those related to the ocean. The risk is too high, the evidence is too strong, and the cost of being wrong is too severe. Somchai's own children represent this divide. His son, who studied engineering in Bangkok, is openly skeptical about spirits and curses. His daughter, who became a teacher in Phuket, maintains traditional beliefs and performs ceremonies regularly. But when Somchai invited both children to join him on a fishing trip that would pass near Koh Hin Ngam, both insisted on performing the proper ceremonies first. His son claimed it was just to make dad feel better and didn't mean he believed in spirits. His daughter performed the ceremony with full sincerity and respect. Both approaches worked. Both children were safe. Because ultimately, as Somchai likes to point out, the spirits seem to care more about the act of respect itself than about whether you truly believe. If you show respect, even if you don't really believe, but you're doing it out of care for others or cultural courtesy, that's enough, Somchai says. The spirits aren't demanding absolute faith, they're demanding respect. There's a difference. This might be the most important lesson for outsiders to understand. You don't have to believe in Thai spirits to benefit from Thai spiritual protection. You just have to show respect for the beliefs and practices of the culture you're visiting. Don't take stones from forbidden islands, not because you believe in curses, but because the local community has asked you not to. Don't anchor in sensitive waters at night, not because you believe in ghosts, but because local fishermen have warned you it's dangerous. Perform the simple ceremonies that locals recommend, not because you think they're magic, but because showing respect for local traditions is part of being a responsible traveler. This approach, cultural respect rather than spiritual belief, is something everyone can practice regardless of their personal views on the supernatural, and according to decades of evidence from Thai fishermen, park rangers, and tourism officials, it works. Respectful tourists who follow local warnings almost never experience problems. Disrespectful tourists who ignore warnings frequently do. Maybe that's because curses are real, and spirits enforce them. Maybe it's because respectful people are more careful, and therefore avoid accidents. Maybe it's some combination of spiritual and practical factors. Thai fishermen don't spend much time debating these questions. They're too busy working, too busy staying safe, too busy living in harmony with the ocean that provides their livelihood. They know what works. They know which behaviors lead to safety and which lead to danger. They're willing to share that knowledge with anyone who will listen. The rest is up to you. The stories of Koh Hin Ngam and Phi Phi Island represent a broader truth about Thailand's relationship with the supernatural. Thai culture doesn't separate the spiritual from the practical. They're woven together in everyday life, especially for people whose livelihoods depend on natural forces they can't fully control. Fishing is dangerous work. The ocean is unpredictable. Storms appear without warning. Currents change. Equipment fails. In this environment, having spiritual practices that provide psychological comfort and social cohesion is valuable regardless of whether the supernatural elements are literally true. When fishermen perform ceremonies before trips, they're creating mental preparation, building community bonds, and connecting with centuries of maritime tradition. When they avoid certain islands or waters, they're exercising caution in an inherently risky profession. Whether you attribute the success of these practices to supernatural protection or the practical benefits of ritual and tradition doesn't really matter. The outcome is the same. Fishermen who follow traditional practices tend to be safer and more successful than those who don't. Western observers often struggle with this integrated worldview. We want to categorize things as either scientific, real, true, worth respecting, or superstitious, fake, false, worth dismissing. The Thai culture doesn't operate within these rigid categories. Something can be spiritually significant and practically useful simultaneously. The warnings about Koh Hin Ngam and Phi Phi Island aren't asking you to abandon rationality. They're asking you to recognize that other cultures have knowledge systems that work, even if they don't fit Western scientific frameworks. And the evidence suggests these knowledge systems do work. Thousands of tourists have taken stones from Koh Hin Ngam, experienced serious misfortune, returned the stones, and recovered. That's a pattern that deserves consideration, regardless of your beliefs about supernatural causation. Similarly, the consistent reports of phenomena around Phi Phi Island across different fishermen, different times, different circumstances suggest something unusual is happening in those waters. Whether it's spirits, environmental factors, psychological effects, or some combination, the practical advice remains the same. Be cautious there, especially at night. Thai fishermen aren't asking anyone to convert to Buddhism or animism. They're not insisting that you adopt their entire worldview. They're simply sharing information about their local environment. These places are dangerous. Here's how to stay safe. That's information worth respecting, whether you believe in the supernatural or not. Because ultimately, whether curses are real or not, the consequences of ignoring local warnings are very real indeed. Paul's medical emergency, the Japanese couple's string of disasters, the countless packages of returned stones arriving at Tarutao National Marine Park. These are documented facts, not supernatural speculation. Something causes these patterns. You can theorize about what that something is, but you can't deny that the patterns exist. Thai fishermen have practical, experiential knowledge about their environment that outsiders lack. They've spent their lives working in these waters. They've observed what happens when people show respect versus disrespect. They've witnessed the consequences of ignoring warnings. Their advice is worth taking seriously, regardless of the explanatory framework they use to communicate it. So if you visit Thailand's Andaman coast, if you go diving or fishing or island hopping in those beautiful waters, remember these stories. Remember Somchai's warnings. Remember the curse of Koh Hin Ngam. Remember the spirits of Phi Phi Island. Not because you're afraid of ghosts, but because respecting local knowledge and local cultures is part of being a responsible traveler. Don't take stones from beaches where locals have asked you not to. Don't anchor in waters where fishermen have warned you away. Don't treat other people's sacred places as entertainment or souvenirs. These are simple rules that protect both you and the communities you're visiting. They preserve relationships between tourists and locals. They maintain the spiritual and practical balance that allows tourism and traditional livelihoods to coexist. And if following these rules means you avoid some mysterious curse or spiritual consequence, well, that's just a bonus. Because at the end of the day, Thai fishermen aren't warning you about forbidden islands because they want to scare you or because they're backwards and superstitious. They're warning you because they care about your safety, they respect their own traditions, and they know their ocean better than any outsider ever will. The question isn't whether you believe them. The question is whether you're smart enough to listen.